Hello students, wish you all a very good morning. I am your Aishwarya ma'am and today I am going to teach you the poem from Flamingo book, A Thing of Beauty by John Keats. Now as I always do before starting the chapter, let us have a look about our poet John Keats. Okay, who is John Keats? John Keats was an English romantic poet. English because he was born in London to English parents on 31st October, and romantic because he was born during the time when it was the romantic age of literature. In 1816, Keats became a licensed apothecary, that is, in the profession of medicine, but he never practiced his profession, deciding instead to write poetry. So Keats loved to write poetry and loved reading. So he took to the profession of writing poetry. He dreamt a lot. He was a nature lover like all other romantic poets. In July 1822-20, he published his third and best volume of poetry, Lamia, Isabella, The Eve of St. Agnes, and other poems. Now see, his life. He was born in London in 1795. So when he grew up, he started writing poetry. He belonged to the romantic era, romantic age, that is 1800s, that is the 19th century. So 19th century was the romantic era of literature. So he was a romantic poet. He was well educated at a school in Enfield. His early passion for reading poetry. His family was plagued by death. So, you see, John Keats had a very sad, small span of life. Why sad? Number one, they were poor. They were poor. His father used to look after horses in a stable. Later, his father went into, taking care of an inn. So they belonged to a poor family. Their family was plagued by death. At a very tender age, he lost his father. And even at the age of 14, he lost his mother. After that, he started living with his maternal grandparents. To put a cherry on the top of a cake, he had a doomed love story with Fanny Brown owing to his poverty and bad health. He loved Fanny Brown, his neighbor, another poet. But their love could never culminate into togetherness or marriage. He suffered from tuberculosis, and that is how he died in 1821 at a mere age of 25 in Rome. Now, students, as you see, he was a romantic poet. Let us know a bit about romantic poems. Romantic poets exhibited certain characteristics, or rather romantic poems displayed certain things. Number one, most of them showed love for nature, beginning from William Wordsworth to Samuel Taylor Coleridge to John Keats to P.B. Shelley, even Lord Byron. Everybody displayed love for nature. So in romantic poems, one characteristic is love for nature. Nature is glorified. Then all the romantic poets showed a tendency to escape from the brutal, sad life of reality to a world of truth and beauty that they yearned for in their heart. So all the poems showed escapism. Now, there is a marked difference between the poems of the classical age, that is the 18th century, and the romantic age. The poems in the classical age were prose-like and superficial. But the romantic poems, as stated by Wordsworth in his lyrical ballad, direct spontaneous of feelings, outburst of feelings from heart, that is a poem. So the poem is not a conscious scribbling of ideas, but direct outburst of feelings. This poem is also a romantic poem written by romantic poet John Keats. John Keats was famous for his poems full of sensuousness and imageries. Let us have a look about the poem and his major works. Okay, now let us see a bit more. While writing for magazines of his time, his poems received constant critical attack. By his odes were considered his masterpieces. Keats is also known for his theory of negative capability, which expresses the belief that great people have the ability to accept that not everything can be resolved. John Keats died on February 23rd, 1821 from tuberculosis at the age of 25. So you see, while writing magazines, his poems received constant critical attack because he was born at such a time when there was affluence of people who were into literature. But his odes, his major works, we will come to it later, his odes were considered his masterpieces. Keats believed in the theory of negative capability. What is negative capability? The thought, the belief that there are various odds in our earth. There are many things that can never be resolved, that has no solution, and great people have the ability to accept the negative things and certain things that are without any solution and move forward in their course in life. This famous and great romantic poet died at a very tender age of 25 in the year 1821. Okay, so now the poem that we are going to study now, A Thing of Beauty. This poem, A Thing of Beauty, is taken from his long poetic romance and epic poem written in 4 different books, that is Endymion. Endymion is a poetic romance written by John Keats, and the poem that we are going to read now, that is A Thing of Beauty, is taken from Endymion. You see, A Thing of Beauty, it is taken from Endymion. Now let us have a look at his major works. Keats wrote lyrical odes. Romantic people believed in rhyming scheme and lyrics. Lyrics means musical. Odes, a kind of tribute. You know what are his odes? Let us see. Ode on Indolence, Ode to Psyche, Ode to a Nightingale, Ode on a Grecian, Ode on Melancholy, Ode to Autumn. And other poems included Hyperion, Endymion, The Eve of St. Agnes, La Belle Damson's Mercy, When I Have Fears, Bright Star, Lamia. So you see, Keats has given so much in his young age, in this part of life that he had lived. The present poem that we are going to read now is a part taken from his poem Endymion. Taken from his poem Endymion. Now, one more thing about Keats that I wanted to say is that his poems were rich in imagery. His poems had a sensual imagery, His poems are rich in imagery that evokes feelings within us. Alright students, now the poem A Thing of Beauty by John Keats. This poem is taken from his poetic romance and epic poem Endymion. which is consisted in 4 different volume of books. Now, before starting the poem, I would like to tell you a bit about Endymion, because the poem A Thing of Beauty is taken from the first book of Endymion. Who is Endymion? Endymion is a lovesick shepherd who is in love with the moon goddess Cynthia. He is deeply in love with the moon goddess Cynthia, and he is love struck. He discloses about this to his sister Peona and then goes out in search of Cynthia and telling her how he loved her. So this is a love story between a goddess and a human being, a mortal divine love. Then on his way to Cynthia, he finds an Indian girl whom he falls for. Then both of them ride on a winged steed to go to Cynthia to tell her that he no longer loves her but is in love with the Indian girl. As he goes there and then comes back, the Indian girl says that she cannot love him. Why? Because she is Cynthia herself. And then she says that how she had tried to forget him, being the moon goddess, but could not. But Endymion had forsaken her for his mortal love. This poem, A Thing of Beauty, is taken from his poetic romance Endymion. Now I will start line by line of the poem A Thing of Beauty.